The best of Money Matters. Right Business.
Welcome to The Right Business, where we dive deep into the stories of trailblazers who dare to disrupt the status quo, find the gap in the market to find the right business. Hello, I'm Hongbin Jeong. For many of us, the job search has always looked the same. Write a resume, list your grades, and hope someone takes a chance on you. But for Gen Zs who value purpose, skills, and global opportunities, this old formula just doesn't cut it anymore. They're entering a world where employers still cling to paper qualifications, even as the economy demands creativity, adaptability, and skills that often don't fit neatly onto a resume. That's why Skilio is helping Gen Zs in Southeast Asia carve out global careers by offering personalized upskilling, connecting them with international employers, proving that talent is so much more than just paper qualifications. And to share more about how Skilio is working to give young professionals the tools and opportunities to build the global careers they're striving for, joining us today is Zhi Hui, who's a co-founder of Skilio. Hi, Zhi Hui. Welcome to the show.
Hello everyone. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. All right, Zhi Hui, you founded Skilio driven by the idea that we're all more than just our paper qualifications. But what was that moment or, experience in your own journey that made you realize the traditional way of assessing talent was broken?
Right. It's interesting because me and my founders, we were mediocre in school, right? So we were actually in a system where we didn't thrive that well academically. And it's quite funny, you tell people, right, when you don't thrive in a system, you try to fix it in a way that works in your favor. So what we tried to do was to redefine how success is being measured. And moving away from just grades, traditional resumes and grades, but looking at what you bring to the table and value that you bring to the community. And that's how it started.
So what gap did you see in the market that made you, feel that Skilio was necessary? And what convinced you that the problem was worth solving?
When we first started, we realized that academic grades were not a very good predictor of how well someone would do in the workplace. Right? So we started with that, and we realized that people who did well in school academically may or may not do or thrive in the workplace, but vice versa as well. Right? And we thought if we were able to solve that problem, to see how we can better match employers with good talent, with the right skills, that would be cool, right? So I think that was how it started. But over time, right, as we tried to solve the problem a little bit more, we realized that was worth solving because a lot of employers gave feedback, right, of students who maybe were traditionally not the best, right, academically, but they did manage to value add into the workplace. And we thought if we could help employers find more good talent, right, I think that was something that we could go into.
Okay, so Skilio is focused on helping Gen Zs, right, here in Southeast Asia build global careers. But why choose to focus specifically on Gen Zs? I mean, what kind of challenges did you see this generation facing?
We are Gen Zs ourselves, so that's how it started. And I think a lot of Gen Zs we met through our networking and through school had the same problems as us. I think we were born in an age where it was granted that we have to use digital tools well. I think it threw us another challenge when we had to go through COVID-19. A lot of us were still in university. And with AI coming up, right, OpenAI, I think that was also a big challenge that we had to solve. So I think we are thrown into a lot of uncertainty, a lot of volatility. And for us, we realized a lot of Gen Zs were also in the transition from school to work when we first started solving the problem, right, which is why we wanted to start with this generation of job seekers. And I think a lot of us now are early careers. And because of this situation, we realize a lot of job descriptions that will exist in the next 1 or 2 years, they don't yet exist now. Right? But yet, that being said, we have to be ready to take on such challenges, even if they don't exist now. So that's a very unique place that we find ourselves in and our peers in, which is why we wanted to focus on this generation. But that being said, we do want to expand into other generations in the future and focus on young people who are in a transition from school to work.
Okay, so tell us exactly what Skilio offers today and how these different parts of your platform, come together to support Gen Z job seekers.
Yeah, so Skilio, we see ourselves as a digital career accelerator where we help Gen Zs in Southeast Asia get a head start in an international global career. And we do that via different ways. How we like to imagine ourselves as is like a gym for a career.
Oh,
right?
okay.
So you build different muscles. And some of the things that we do are, even before the job, right, we do collect data points on the skills that a student has. So it's a bit like your assessment stage, where you go to the gym and you realize and you assess, right, what is your current fitness level and what are some of the things that you need to work on, what are some of the gaps you have, right? And then what we do is to then build the muscles, right? So some of the ways that we do that are through some of our consultations, master classes. We also have what we call career simulations, where our job seekers, they don't actually have to do an actual role, but they can use some tools to simulate how it is like to be in a realistic work environment. And through that, they gain skills. Right? And we do give them support and guidance on how can they better craft these materials to apply for a job. And after that, we do offer attachments. So these actual attachments allow them to work in a company, be it physically or remotely. Right? And throughout this attachment, we do take care of them as well. We do what we call mastermind sessions, accountability groups, where they also get to understand how can they better thrive in a workplace. So it's more of an end-to-end. And students don't just stay with us during a stint, but we do hope to accompany them throughout their early career or their career switch days as well. Yeah, I think eventually a lot of them, they do come back and take attachment over attachment, which we really enjoy. And I think for us, that helps us build a good and supportive community as well.
Okay, so I understand how you're helping these Gen Z job seekers get opportunities, right? But what about the other end? How do you help employers, see beyond traditional resumes and recognize the potential in Gen Z candidates who may not have, conventional paper qualifications?
One very big challenge that a lot of employers have told us, right, is that they find that there's a skills gap between the candidates that maybe apply to their company right, and the kind of skills that they require at the job. And that's a very tough nut to crack, actually, because I think on the job description, there could be some requirements. And it seems like on the surface, right, a lot of candidates, they meet those requirements. But when they actually have to do the job, they don't really do that well. They don't meet that criteria. So what we believe is the way is to actually look at how can we collect proof and thought process from these candidates, right, to show that they have some past experience or past evidence of doing something like that before. And we realize it's not just for the technical skills, right? It's also for the softer things that we are looking out for. And with this evidence, we realize this is a better predictor of future performance, more so than what is just written on the resume. Because I think now for a resume, it's phasing out slowly, right? Because a lot of candidates actually can use AI to brush it up or tailor it to what's required. So yeah, that helps. And we get feedback from the employers as they go to refine some of the things that they require. And hopefully that also helps us to build our community, our job seeker community, in a way that allows them to collect this evidence and what we call skills artifacts to showcase that to our employers.
Okay, so what does a Gen Z user's journey look like when they use Skilio from the moment they sign up to landing an international opportunity?
At the start, they do a skills assessment where they have to submit some proofs of their existing work. For example, right, for a marketing role, they might want to submit some past experiences related to content creation, right? Maybe even doing a marketing campaign that they have done. And it's interesting because a lot of our job seekers, they are still students and they don't have a lot of professional experience. And what we want to do is to help them produce materials that are not necessarily just from internships or full-time jobs, but it could be something that they have done in their school as part of their modules or course, right? And that also signals to our employers that, okay, they have some skills and they are willing to learn, pick up some of these skills further. After that, they go through what I mentioned, support circles, consultations, mastermind sessions, master classes, where they also hear not just, I would say, on the surface resources, but also tips and tricks from human resource professionals, right? Actual employers who want to hire, right? So it's a bit of a backdoor strategy for them to understand how can they secure roles. For those of them who feel they have no time or they want to do some practice or simulations first, they can go through that. If not, I think the next part of the user journey is they go for actual attachments with our companies. Throughout that, they actually get support through our mastermind sessions. And yeah, they also flag out some of the issues that they have. And that's part of the learning process, right? Because on the job, work is always different from just, I think, picking up skills related to going for a good interview or writing a good resume.
Right. Well, I have a question here. Why are more Gen Zs looking for international opportunities? Are local opportunities not cutting it out for them?
Yeah, I think local opportunities are great. My advice would be to look at a mix of local and international opportunities, and that widens your pool of opportunities out there. Right? I think likewise for employers, they are not just looking for local job seekers, right, anymore, but also a mix of local and foreign students. Why is that so, right? Because I feel that I think our world is very interconnected, even so now, right, especially now. And I think having that diversity in a team and diversity and experience helps you understand what are some of the different problems that different companies or job seekers face. I see that a lot of our employers, they don't just want to operate locally. So a very big reason why they engage our pipeline is also because they want to expand their offering in other parts of the region. And having a local job seeker there who knows the local language and who understands the nuances in the culture can better do the market research or business development there. And as a young person, right, in the future, I think jobs will be very diverse. Teams will be very diverse. And having that experience helps you to also understand how to work across borders, work with different people. Yeah, and that's a great experience, right? Because I think we're all going to be, in some way or another, managing a team that is diverse. And having that experience, I think, will be very attractive on your portfolio.
Well, what has been the feedback been like so far from your users? Are there any unique success stories from Gen Z job seekers that stood out to you?
For the job seekers, I think a couple of very heartwarming cases, right, is when Gen Z job seekers, they come to us and tell us that this opportunity is life-changing in terms of access. And that's how we see ourselves democratizing access, right, to young people in Southeast Asia. I think a lot of them, they will not be able to access these opportunities if not for our program. A lot of them are actually from the tier 2 or tier 3 cities in some of their countries, and they have never left their city since they were born. Right? And I think in one case, this student was not from a top university, a local university in that city, but she was extremely talented, right? And our employer had a very wonderful experience with her as well. So our employer was based in Singapore. He actually agreed to fly this talent outside of her city to Singapore, right? And she messaged us and told us, well, this is the first time I'm taking a plane. And actually, it's just the first time going out of my country in the first place, right? And that was really cool, right? It made me realize that I think talent is everywhere, really, right? But opportunity is not. And if you're able to help students or job seekers who are there, right, I think there's a lot of potential in the region.
Are there any misconceptions that employers have about Gen Zs that you'd like to address?
Yeah, it's interesting because we have employers who are Gen Zs, we have employers who are not Gen Zs. I think the misconception comes especially when there is like what we call the generation gap, right? And a lot of times what we realize is that Gen Zs, they are very purpose-driven, very impact-driven. Sometimes they do want to find efficient ways to make the most of their time, right? But that could sometimes be misunderstood as being maybe not willing to put in the hard work, right, or lazy. Now, I don't think that's the case, right? I think we're just different in that way. And when it comes to the mode of work, in the past, there was no such thing as remote work or hybrid work, right? But now, actually, a very large majority of our work is done online, right? So I think one thing is having to put in the hours is one thing, right? But I think Gen Zs are very focused on the impact of the output, which also got some, I think, raised eyebrows from my employers, right? When they are actually not very sure how to manage remote team, especially when it's remote. Hours maybe sometimes are not fixed, they're quite flexible. But yeah, it took some education, it took some time. I'm seeing more employers getting used to that, right? And yeah, I think it's offering a very attractive work option for Gen Zs.
What about vice versa, though? Is there any misconceptions that Gen Zs have on, work life or workplace culture?
I think for Gen Zs, they understand that there is a difference, right? But I would say the misconception or the misunderstanding comes when maybe they feel like the employers are not receptive to some of their ideas, or they prefer to stick to the traditional ways of managing a team, right? So that still happens, right? And I would think that it takes some time to have that shift. But I do acknowledge as well that there are some lines of work that require more fixed hours, or some things have to get done, right? So it's also our job, I feel, our responsibility to explain to our job seekers, especially the Gen Z job seekers, that there's certain rationale, right, and intention behind some of these, I would say, rules or norms that our employers have put in place, right? But at the same time, if we feel that there are some things that can be done better, right, I think we also act as a consultant, right, like a HR consultant for some of our employers, to suggest ways we can work things around, right, operationally change things up a little bit, so that, more Gen Zs will be keen to join.
Right. Well, what would you say is Skilio's biggest differentiator then from other career platforms or job marketplaces out there? And why should Gen Zs choose Skilio as their go-to platform for their career search?
That's a question we ask ourselves every day. Right? But I think for us, we don't see ourselves as a job matching platform. Right? Neither are we like I would say a place where we find job placements, right, for job seekers. But we see ourselves as a community, right, and an end-to-end community where students and job seekers, they come back even after they secure roles. It's a community where they can also meet other job seekers in the region, right? And that's also the intention of bringing everyone together, because I think as much as a lot of us have a lot of differences in terms of the company that you're working for or where you're from, right? Our job seekers are from different parts of the region. But I think one thing we have in common is that they're all job seeking and they're looking at ways that they can better thrive in an international career. And that has helped a lot. I think a lot of job seekers have not only just given, not only received, but also given, right, to the community. That helps a lot, right, because there's a lot of peer-to-peer sharing. There's a lot of, I think, mutual accountability to go through the process together. I think that's how we are different, right? We are not just investing in just the placement, right, which is where I think a lot of platforms make money, right? But I think we want to find different ways to make money by building this community as well. And I think that's a place there where our job seekers will want to be in for the long term.
Well, before we let you go here, Zhi Hui, looking ahead, what else can we expect from Skilio in the coming months? What's next?
So, two different ways I say this. I think one of it is more of horizontal expansion, right, where we look at offering more things to the same group of audience, right, which is our Gen Z job seekers. And for us, like I mentioned, we do want to continue building the community and not just finding them international career attachments, but we're also looking at more tech-enabled, AI-enabled ways to collect data points for skills, right? So are there different ways that we can help our job seekers certify their skills, suggest improvements in some of their skills artifacts, and eventually optimize the matching, right, between our job seekers and our employers. And this cannot be done completely by AI. I think we still have to partner with AI to do it well, but that's in the works, right? And I think vertically, like I mentioned, we don't just want to serve Gen Z job seekers in the long term, but also look at early careers, career switchers, underserved groups, right? I think we have quite a few moms or girls who are having trouble finding jobs in their home country. So yeah, I think that might be also a group of people that we want to help and support.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Zhi Hui, for joining me today.
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
That was Zhi Hui, who is a co-founder of Skilio. This has been The Right Business with me, Hongbin Jeong.
To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.